You're listening to Inclusive AF with Jackie Clayton and Katie Van Horn.
Hi, welcome. Happy.
What is it? What's today? Happy Wednesday, whatever Wednesday it is.
Whatever Wednesday it is. It's not Wednesday for us, but that doesn't matter. It's all a secret. So hi, Jackie.
Hi, Katie Van Horn. Welcome to the Inclusive AF podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here every time when we record. So Jackie, we're going to get into it today, and we're going to talk about some stuff that we'll just let folks know ahead of time. They're kind of a trigger warning that we are going to talk about some tough topics today. We're going to talk about safety at work, safety for women, safety for anyone who's non-binary or non-gender conforming. We're going to talk about rape culture and some other tough topics. So just want to call that out before we jump into the topic, because there might be some folks who maybe want to avoid this episode, but we do encourage you to listen if you are comfortable. And anything else we should say?
No, I think that's a great intro. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I think you and I both, just before we press record, we were talking a little bit about the woman in the UK who was walking home from a night out and was taken off of the street, was kidnapped, and was murdered. And there's been quite an outpouring in the UK because of the fact that all women kind of get this. And I think even globally, all of us can remember a time when you were walking to your car, or you were leaving something late at night, leaving work late at night, or whatever it might be. And you had that, the hairs on the back of your neck, all of those like not great feelings that we've all gone through and lived through. And so I want to start off with that topic. And for the people that don't understand this, and I'll say men, but I think there are just certain folks that maybe don't know what this experience is for women. And so,
well, I wanted to say this is part of the workshop that I do. It's called Check Your Privilege. And part of what we do is I ask all the women in the room, it's holiday time, it's 8:30 at night, and you go to your car, what do you do? And always people will say, I make sure I have my keys in my hand. I make sure that I park under a light. I make sure that I have the alarm button ready on my key fob, all of these things. And I say, men, what do you do? And they always say, I just go to the car.
Yeah, totally. Don't like, what are you talking about?
They don't even there's a process. And we use that to just explain some of the male privilege in dealing with that. And it's unfortunate because it speaks to not only the world is different when you see it through a different lens, it also just goes to show you that we have to educate our men better and treatment and what women are going through. But I think that this particular case is terrifying when the people that you count on to protect you are your abuser or violator or kidnapper or murderer.
Yep. And so, just to fill folks in, someone has been arrested in this case, and it is actually a police officer. He was not on duty. But I think, this is one of those times that you're exactly right that, for anyone, it's that, when something bad happens, your first instinct is to call the police. And so, it is that if they're not there to protect you, who is? And I say, hey, I should actually change that statement. My first thought is to call the police. Maybe for other folks. Not. Yeah. Okay. And I was going to say maybe for other folks.
I call my daddy first.
It's true. That's a good point. I actually just call one of my brothers.
Right.
But yes, same concept.
But you should know, I say you should, but you would know more than anybody, there's no such thing as an off-duty cop. It's just Saturday.
Right.
Just like we can't be racist on the weekend and say, well, I'm only a diversity person from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Like that is already, obviously a misuse of power, even worse.
Correct. Agreed. And yes, I think saying off duty, I wanted to clarify that because I think there is this, I'm just thinking from like my own perspective. If I'm walking home at night at midnight and I see an officer in a patrol car or in uniform, whatever, there's a very specific thought. Oh, I'm safe. Everything's fine. This person is here to protect and serve. But,
Right.
If the person is in just plain clothes, then that maybe is different. But agreed, like, yes, it should be you're safe. And I think we've seen such misuses of power that it is unfortunate. And I will also caveat this by saying, you and I both know really good people that are in law enforcement. And so I think that, and that's not the topic we're digging into. We really want to focus on safety. So I wanted to also think about this in terms, I love the story you just told about your training class, because I think that's something that folks don't realize. And hopefully all of the men in our lives are listening to this. Because I think there is a feeling of how do I stay safe? And what are those precautions you have to take as a woman? I think I have a lot of very good friends who are single who own dogs. And that's one of the ways that because they'll be alerted, or they have dogs that would protect if needed. What are some of the other ways, like from what you've experienced, other ways that women have, like you gave some good examples there. What other ways do we have to protect ourselves just being out and about in the world?
Well, some of it is just making sure, like if you're going out to dinner by yourself, that you're sitting in the middle of the room to make sure that you've been seen. A lot of times it's sending your location. I send my location a lot. I send my Uber location. I recommend everybody use that, especially on business trips when you've been traveling and you're like, okay, I'm leaving the airport. Now I'm at this place. Just because what's even more frightening is in a situation like that where people might not know where you are, the last place that you were. And it's a catch-22 with technology, because people are like, I don't want them to know where I am until I need them to know where I am. But those are some safety measures that are there. But it's sad. I will tell you one thing that I found really interesting. So me and my son, TJ, are in an organization called the Young Men's Service League. And the Young Men's Service League, women, it's for moms and their sons. And so there's leadership and training classes for the moms and leadership and training classes for the sons. And we went to the family abuse center, and we did that. We studied domestic violence. They've studied the problem with like porn addiction. And sweet little baby TJ's eyes are like this, they're just huge saucers. But we have to communicate. One of the things that we have to do, all of us, is communicate with young men, or men especially, that they recognize that this is something that occurs, so that we don't perpetuate what I call this like rape culture of taking from people from that position of power. I just feel like, because that's one way. Sometimes it's physical, but then sometimes I think it can be mental power shift of taking advantage of women. And so there's things that we have to do to protect ourselves physically, but there is probably even on a more regular basis, on an everyday kind of basis, of protecting ourselves mentally as well.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you of what happened to me on a trip to Amsterdam. So I travel quite a bit for work and for the businesses that I support. Not recently, of course, but I was on a trip and we were in Amsterdam, and I was there with a peer, another female, and we went out to dinner after our work day and then went back to the hotel. And when I got to my door at the hotel, I realized my key card wasn't working. So I went back downstairs and had them fix it. Okay, great. So I got back onto the elevator, and when I got onto the elevator, a family came in, and then another guy came in, and he like stood behind me. And I didn't really think twice about it. Like, okay, what, and I didn't like look at him because it was one of those, like, he's just another person on the elevator. I got off on my floor, and the way that this hotel is situated, it's like long hallway, like to get to your room was like 4 different hallways to get there. And this guy was behind me the whole way, following. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, this is weird. And in my mind, I thought, I didn't get a picture. I didn't see his face. And I was like, freaking out. And so I go to my door, use the key card. And as I'm closing the door behind me, he is going next door. And I realize his room is right next door. And I hear him say, right at my doorstep. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious. Okay. And I'm of course like freaking out. And of course, this is late at night in Amsterdam. So my safety net of who I would call, all of them are asleep, or it's early morning for them. Early morning. So I was like, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, okay, am I overreacting? Am I being a goofball? Like maybe it's not a big deal, whatever. I'm just going to go to sleep. So as I'm preparing for bed, washing my face, getting in my pajamas, the phone rings in my room. And I pick up, no one says anything. So I hang up, phone rings again. Hi, I'm next door. What is your name? And I said, that's none of your business. And I hung up the phone. But again, I'm thinking I'm in a hotel. And so this guy can actually call down to the desk and ask, and who knows what they might say or not say. So I call down. So I mind you, I'm texting with my sisters at this point, like, you guys got to wake up. Texting with the woman who's in another room, like, what do I do? And all of them are like, call the front desk and have them move you immediately. And I'm like, okay, am I overreacting? And again, I'm doubting myself, going, I'm overreacting. And so I call the front desk, and they send up 2 people. And one of them is a man who's security, clearly, and the woman who's like the night manager, whatever she was. Hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And the woman is like, do you want to go ahead and get your stuff packed up? We'll take you to another room. Not a big deal. And I'm like, yes, that'd be great. So I'm packing up my stuff, and we get out the door, and he must have heard when the door closed behind me. He must not have heard them talking, but heard the door close behind me. So he pops his head out and then realizes I'm not alone. And so I'm in front, kind of walking away. The security guard is in front of me, and the woman is behind me. So the woman and the security guard go back to his door because he closed it real quick. They knock on the door. Hey, did you call her room? No, what are you talking about? I didn't do that. And they were asking him different questions. And then the security guard said, just so you know, we have cameras all over this hotel, so we will be watching when you leave tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And on one hand, I was like, okay, that's creepy. So yeah. So they took me to another room. Great. Everything's fine. But then for the rest of the trip, I was like on edge and like waiting for, to turn around, turn a corner and run into someone. And again, I still don't know what he looks like. So it was also that he could have been sitting right beside me and I wouldn't have known. So it just was like a creepy situation. And that was really like the first, I've traveled all over the place, everywhere. Yeah. That was the first time that I truly was like, I don't feel safe. But I also think there's I don't know about you, but I'm a travel and pack person. Yes. Like if I'm traveling by myself, I don't go anywhere at night unless it's like, right across the street. It's not something that I go out and try to seek out adventures at night because it's just not a good idea.
Ooh, I wonder what the nightlife is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not for me. Half the time it's because I'm exhausted and on, 7 different time zones. But have you had anything like that happen when you've been traveling?
Yes.
Tell me.
So it was in our country at a conference, and people were we were all just, we're out front, sitting out front, like in the lobby bar. And I was going upstairs to my room, and there was a bunch of us in the elevator, like not a big deal, got off on my floor. and this person got off with me, kind of similar to what we were talking about, like was like following me. So then I was like, oh, I forgot something. And I just got back on the elevator and went downstairs. And then I was just like shaking because that creeped me out.
And you don't know, like it could have been a harmless situation, right?
Could have, but it was, I mean, like, it's one of those things like, this is not today, Satan. This is just not going down. And I feel like those things are put in place. Like, I hate it. I mean, like when it's one thing to be like when you own a pit bull and someone crosses the street, but if you think you're going to get eaten by a pit bull, cross the street. Like you're not doing anybody any favors. Like, oh, I'm overreacting. I don't want to hurt his feelings. Screw all that. Screw all that. Change your room, cross the street.
Yes.
You know, grab your purse. Because I feel like it's your subconscious that is trying to keep you safe in those situations. And when you're by yourself, you are really all you have.
Are you looking for a podcast that talks about humanity as well as human resources? Listen to the Reciprocity with AG podcast, where leaders in workforce and human resources talk more about themselves, how they reciprocate to others, and how they have received unbelievable advice for some of their mentors and people they've worked with.
So there's a podcast that I listen to, which is awesome. If you're not listening to it and you like any type of murder type stories, go listen. But
what's it called?
My Favorite Murder.
Oh, yes. You've told me about that before.
Yes. And one of their kind of sayings for women, and I'm going to say this, and it's the first cuss word I'll be saying on the podcast. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's fuck politeness. Simply, it is not, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, I don't care if I hurt someone's feelings. I don't care if it's about my safety or my feeling like I'm not safe. Then I need to make the right decision for me. And this is not start, believing in stereotypes and doing weird stuff because you've been ingrained with weird things that aren't true. But it is about you. If you are walking down a hallway in a hotel and there's a man behind you and you don't want to go to it's kind of like if someone's following you in a car, you don't drive to your house, you drive to a police station. What I mean? Like it's the same or in my mind, it is.
It is. But on Oprah, they had a thing that like, I learned this and I was probably in the 5th grade or something, but they had a woman on the show and she talked about how she was going to her apartment and a man was behind her and said he needed to be let in, and she let him in. And then he followed her to her door and he said he needed to do something, whatever. Like she enabled her own like rape is what she felt like in her own head. Of course she didn't have any responsibility for that.
Right.
But she does think she was more worried about hurting his feelings than getting in her house.
Right. And I think, we can, go into the patriarchy and all of the reasons why we have been ingrained as women to believe that, we have to be nice. We can't be a jerk to someone. That's not nice. And we have to be polite. And if they need to, maybe they really do need to come into my apartment to make a phone call, whatever we are going to come up with in our head. No, absolutely not. Keep yourself safe, period. If it feels weird, don't do it.
But I think black people do that too all the time. Like, we'll just like giggle at the racist joke or not say anything about being the only one or being tokenized because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or you don't want to lose your jobs. And it's horrible. And granted, it took me until I was later in my career to start speaking up about anything like that. But, it's just interesting hindsight when you look back at your career. I'm sure at least I've had some of those instances where I'm like, wow, how am I even alive right now? But then you also have did that really happen to me? And what was that, So I'll let you in on a little secret.
Tell me.
And our friends who I know, I trust implicitly.
So all of you that are listening, don't tell anyone.
So back in the day, I used to work for Miller Lite. I was a Miller girl back in the day. And so I would work my corporate job. And at night, allow people to, like, I would handing out beers in different situations where we were hired to go do different situations. And there were times when, you know, it's like, it was totally different than working in cash applications, like the job that we were doing. And I remember what was interesting is that I had always worked for women. And then there was this one man that came into the office and he asked me if I was a stripper. Like, I had just done a Miller job and I came back, and then he asked me if I was a stripper. And I thought in my head when I was younger, maybe it was because I worked last night. Like, I did some like stupid show or whatever last night, or I worked at some bar as a bartender and I'm being over friendly, and it tormented me for months going, you know, I was talking to my therapist who was trying to convince me that that had nothing to do with me, but I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And for years, and then all of a sudden, and I still couldn't think of somebody being of authority who was always nice and polite and friendly and wrote my reviews and signed my check would be inappropriate. And then it took then flash forward 20 years and I'm like, that mother effer.
And to your point, it was in your head for how long?
Right.
It's still in your head.
Yes. And I still, if I could remember what he looks like, because now I'm like old and tired, but his words are still in my head.
Right. Well, that's, one of the stories, and this did not impact me because I did work there for a few months, but I wasn't there quite often. But two of my sisters worked at a pizza place back in high school. And so, my youngest sister was 16, 17 at the time. Older sister was, 17, 18, maybe 19 at the time. And the manager or owner of this place would ask them what color their underwear was every day. And you think about that, like, A, you're gross, but also you're a pedophile. These are little girls. No matter what they look like, no matter, how mature they seem, they are not of age, and that is disgusting, and you are gross, and you should go away now, sir.
That is a big problem. If you've looked at McDonald's, they have a lot of lawsuits because of that, the sexual harassment that they have, because they don't have a set up full plan. And there are several women in a class action lawsuit because of being sexually harassed at work, and they didn't have any recourse. If they said something and complained about it, they were getting fired, especially if it wasn't owned by corporate, and they had no plan. And I think it's important. I mean, it's important that you muster up everything within your body to get out of that situation. It is terrifying and scary, but you have to, when you have that feeling, you're not wrong. And so many people will doubt. It's like you're gaslighting yourself of saying that something didn't happen. And it makes sense that people do that to protect themselves. You're trying to protect yourself, but protect yourself in your new job. Like, just take that with you. Right.
Well, and I think I'm glad you just said that, because I think it's never about the sex. It's about the power.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the piece that so many women who are put into these positions, it is, how can I have power over her? How can I, make her feel smaller? And I'm using her, and I'm using female pronouns, but I think it happens to non-binary people. I think it happens to, trans people all the time, because again, it's a power thing. And it's the fear of, I'm not going to be able to find another job. There isn't another job that I'm qualified for, or that's hiring right now, or whatever it might be. And that is what the abuser knows and stokes fear into the person. And so, yeah, there's that gaslighting part as well. That is and I mean, I think we could talk about this from a relationship standpoint too. You're never going to find another job like that. You're never going to be enough. You're dumb. You're whatever. And making them feel so small that they feel like this is the only option. This is the only thing I have to take it, because the fact that there's nothing else. No one else will hire me. I'm not good enough for anything else. And I think we've seen this as well in some of the undocumented workers that have also been abused. And it's because they don't have another option. They don't have, they can't get another job somewhere else, by walking down the street because they don't have their papers, those types of things. And it just is so disturbing on every level. And I think we need to figure out how to help women with the safety piece, but also how do we break down these freaking systems where people are in power that should not be in power because they're not good people.
I want to share something, and I'll put the link in it for the folks at home. Let me make sure I can pull it up. There's something that is used in domestic violence, and it is called the power and control wheel. And so if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm sorry, I every time I share my screen, who knows what pops up? See? How did that pop up? I don't know. Here it is. So this is the power and control wheel, and it has physical and sexual violence on the outside. But you can really put this and have emotional threats and abuse, and these are the things that they are saying that leads to the types of abuse. So using intimidation, using emotional abuse, using isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children, using male privilege, using economic abuse, and using coercion and threats. And I think all of this goes into what we're seeing to in underrepresented people that feel threatened, like they have to stay in a job situation. But we also see it with women as well to protect their safety. And it's just one of those things that it's important that everybody have access and start looking at this, and so that you make sure that you are seeing things for what it is. Again, you're just like we talk about bias. Part of what we talk about is your body and your brain uses what's familiar to try to make sense of whatever is going on. And it will do that to yourself. You will try to make sense of an uncomfortable situation. And so if you're listening and you're not sure if you were in a situation that is potentially unsafe, it's probably a good idea to just look at some of these things to see if any of this was happening. Like, was the person trying to make you afraid by looks or putting you down? Were they minimizing the things that you were saying? And if you recognize it in any of these places, make sure, take care of yourself, make sure it's aware, and look for a safer situation if these things are going on. So I'll definitely put the link on our
on the show notes.
That's what it is, the show notes. But I saw this, and I also saw this that was using for underrepresented people as well, where they took out the violence, but showing those types of things. And I just thought I would share, because I think it's really important, because especially, and we talked about this too, when you're younger in your career, you're not really sure at first if this is what grown-up adult corporate people do, or is this wrong?
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, I think we saw it this week. So I don't know, did you hear all about the Sharon Osbourne, Cheryl Underwood exchange about Piers Morgan?
No.
Okay. So,
but I hate Piers Morgan.
Well, who record. Doesn't? Well, okay. The person who doesn't His is mom. Sharon Osbourne.
She doesn't.
She does not hate him. And why that's the problem is because she started defending him on The View. And basically, Cheryl Underwood had to be extremely diplomatic in saying to her, I don't, you are my friend. I don't consider you a racist. And I'm not calling you a racist. I'm trying to understand why you are defending him. And Sharon Osbourne freaked out. And what you're seeing now on Twitter is every Black woman saying, Cheryl Underwood is all of us, having to bite our tongue, be very measured in our speaking, because had she reacted to Sharon Osbourne the way that most folks would have in that situation, then she would have been the angry Black woman. And she
Right.
would have been the person that would have been the issue, not Sharon Osbourne for screaming at her, educate me, educate me, educate me.
Stop it.
I will not. You need to go watch it.
I'm gonna punch her in the face.
Well, I'm surprised that Cheryl did not.
Actually, I probably will not ever get a chance.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think it's a.
But wait, back up.
Okay, sorry. Go.
So she's defending, and Cheryl Underwood is going, yeah, no, and she said, educate me to her.
So, okay. So the deal is Sharon Osbourne tweeted after, so I don't know if you know, but Pierce Morgan walked off the set the other day
Yes,
because people were questioning him about his
Yeah.
racism towards Meghan Markle.
Right.
And
he got his feelings hurt.
Yes, indeed. And so Sharon Osbourne tweeted something about, Pierce is a great guy and I defend him or whatever. I don't even know what the tweet said, but it was basically like in support of him and, he's a good guy. And so the question was, tell me why you think that. Tell me why you believe that. And she got fired up and said, I've never heard him say anything racist. I've never heard him say anything inappropriate. Educate me on what he said that's racist. And Cheryl Underwood had to say, whether it was actually racist or not, he has said things that are, he hasn't actually said, you can't, it's not a one point in time racism. He said something racist. It's over time, the gaslighting, the undertone of the comments, all of these things. Like he hasn't said, hey, I'm going to carry, put on my white robes and go burn a cross in Meghan Markle's yard. But he has said some very problematic things. And the response from Sharon Osbourne was screaming at Cheryl Underwood to say, educate me on why you think this, I don't know. Maybe I just don't know. Go watch it. But it is one of those, now she's, of course, backtracking and saying I was blindsided. It's CBS's fault, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, no, you're defending someone who is doing bad things and people are asking you, please help me understand.
Well, we could talk about something really quick because this past week, there was a sportscaster who was hot mic'd, meaning his microphone was on, and it was at a basketball game. And there was a team, and they were all kneeling during the national anthem. And he said, effing N-word about them. Hot mic'd. He said it twice. And then in a press release, he said he blamed it on his diabetes, which I was like, stop it. And in it, he said, I've never considered myself a racist. And I just was cracking up, but I knew it wasn't appropriate to respond, that's so funny, because I knew I was trying to say more. You would have to know why I would think that was so much funny. But I was like, that's just so dumb. I don't consider myself overweight either, but the BMI says the facts are the facts. Okay. There's a toll chart. I think when you say effing N-words, it's on the list. You don't get to say, I'm not a racist. I just use that language. You can't reconcile both of those things. And so it's always the person it's never the receiver. It's always the perpetrator of these things saying that they didn't do that. Right? I think about when my kids were little and they would smack each other and say, I didn't hit you that hard. Wait, you don't get to decide that. The receiver who's in pain gets to decide that. And you don't get to decide those types of things of whether something was problematic and offensive. If the person who's in the underrepresented group says that, you're best off listening to try to understand where that person is coming from in every situation, because especially if you're in the majority group. So that means if you're cisgender talking to someone who's non-binary or in the, LGBTQ world that says that they're feeling offensive, you have to listen, because whoever is in that majority group needs to listen, pay attention, and take those things in. It is part of the education process. You'll feel better. It's a cleansing, painful conversation. You'll probably have a cleansing cry of understanding. but I hate it. I just cannot. I'm never not triggered when people say things like, "Oh, well, I didn't mean it like that," or "They took it wrong." The gaslighting of that, I get completely triggered.
Well, yeah, you should. Like
I mean,
for someone to say,
I mean,
I said the N word, but I didn't mean
I've
it.
never
Like, what
considered
do you-
myself a racist. I don't even that. What does that even mean?
Well, and it's also I've never considered myself a racist, but I'm saying racist things. And clearly I was, as the sayer of these bad words, that was watching someone kneel during the national anthem. Clearly I had some issue with that. And it wasn't about them being lovely people.
He
You
didn't
had an
say
issue.
those effing bakers. Like this
Right.
wasn't some rare form of
Right.
diabetes medicine taken.
Right. Or even if it was those effing players, that's
Correct.
a different connotation completely.
That was a word that you had to select.
You
and
chose.
You would never, I never say that word. I would never say that word. And
No.
granted, sometimes when I'm listening to some music, sometimes I say it. But I am saying I would never have a conversation with somebody and say, you whatever, and then be like, oops, my bad. Like I have to be thoughtful of language. And I don't understand why it's so hard to just not, if a word is or something is going to hurt somebody and it could hurt anybody, why would you say it ever? Like you have to get in. This past week, I told everybody with emojis, they are inclusive emojis. Please refrain from using exclusive emojis. It's a free country. You can use whatever you want. I'm just saying please try to use inclusive emojis whenever possible.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a question, use a cat or a smiley face. Like, because it drives people crazy. It's enough to divide people. And then people are like, oh, well, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And who's yellow skin tone? Anyway, not from my organization, but in talking to people about it later. And it's like, if it's going to hurt somebody, if somebody feels excluded, like that's all you need to know. Like there's better choices.
Amen.
So just make them.
Hello, this is Michael Vandervoort from the Drive-Thru HR podcast, where we discuss ideas, trends, and activities that impact HR, talent, HR technology in the workplace. Our focus is on expanding knowledge and igniting curiosity as we hear directly from people who are shaping the future of the HR industry. Join us.
I do want to say a positive thing, though. Speaking of emojis, Slack, I don't know if you heard, but Slack just recently started grouping. So like if you comment on something and someone gives a thumbs up, they tell you how many thumbs up you got, and then also the skin tone. And like it is much more inclusive in that manner. Okay.
Back to the safety. Sorry, went off on a tangent.
No, I think, but here's the thing. Like,
relevant.
I think we were talking like the Cheryl Underwood piece is a safety at work piece. The gentleman saying something completely inappropriate, hot mic'd or not, at work.
That's right.
And it's also like, it's
That's
ironic that you're saying, hey, those people kneeling during the national anthem are this and that. And that has been the argument, is they're at work, and so they shouldn't be doing this. But
that's right.
You're at work too, sir. So maybe you shouldn't be a racist at work.
At work.
How about that?
Even though you've never considered I should send them a letter in response to his press release. I do.
I do consider you a racist.
So moving on. You want to rewrite that? I'll give you 24 hours. Go ahead, rewrite that.
To be clear,
Jackie said I'm a racist.
To be clear, we all think you're a racist.
All of
the
us,
end.
except for your mama. And even your mama probably thinks you're a racist now. She didn't know.
First jerseys. Okay. So we touched, and you made comment about rape culture, and I think this is the last topic in this episode that we should just touch on. And I think there are so many layers to this and so many pieces to this. And one of the things, we have talked about is kind of that cycle of socialization and how we have been socialized.
Yes.
And, I think the most recent, I I don't even know if you could call this like rape culture. I think there's like this recent uproar about Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion with the WAP
Yes.
song. And every time that someone brings it up is like, that's so inappropriate. All I do is think back to, and I think you and I grew up with some of the same music, listening to the same music. You think about NWA.
Yeah.
You think about, and actually we don't even have to stay with rap. We could go in any direction in how women are sexualized. Think about all those big hair bands that had women, you know, Tawny Katane,
putting themselves, pour some sugar on me,
laying on a car with, you know, a skimpy outfit and
cherry pie.
And, thank you. That's another good one.
Jesus. Sorry, take the wheel.
Jesus was not in any of these videos, Jackie, to be clear. Not appropriate.
Sorry.
But like you think about how women have been sexualized in music and music videos and continue to be. And everyone is so, you know, hey, that's so inappropriate that they had this song. And I'm like, I don't understand how that's inappropriate. And yet all of these other videos, it's been like, well, yeah, that's not great, but oh, well, you know, too bad. Sorry. That's just the way
I'll tell
it is.
you, that's why, if you've never heard, some of you are younger than Katie and I, and that's okay. We welcome, we're inclusive AF.
We're inclusive.
We're not feeling old at all.
No.
I didn't take a Geritol or anything today. So and they only know Queen Latifah as an actress, but Queen Latifah used to be a rapper. That's why I said that. Some people are like, what?
It's kind of like
Queen
LL.
Latifah.
LL Cool J also used to be a rapper.
LL Cool J used to be a rapper too.
Ice-T from Law and Order SVU, rapper. So that's just a little history lesson thrown in to this episode for all of you young babies out there that we love so much. Sorry.
And so when she has a song called UNITY that came out during that same time frame. And since you already cussed, then I can cuss too, since you already cussed. And she opens that song and she says, "Who you calling a bitch?" And it's just like mic drop from there, because all of the rap songs referred to women as bitches and hoes at that time frame. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay. And it's a great song anyway, where about unity. And the thing now is that this is why diversity and inclusion is important. And this is what people don't get. We always talk about the reason that so many people talk about the financial benefit and the retention is because that's the only language that we know how to speak to cis white males that are already in the CEO position at the Fortune 500 companies, whatever. It's the only way. But let me tell you a little secret. Part of this rape culture that has projected onto the Me Too movement is because of these complaints and gaslighting and people making it okay, because the ultimate decision maker is that same cis white male that is saying, oh, that's not what they meant, or it's just this and it's just that. And if we had more diverse people in areas of power, this wouldn't happen as much. I mean, we have to be bold and courageous. And we have to, all of us that are listening and all of us that believe that we need to be inclusive and that rape culture doesn't exist. But it is time for our reckoning. It is time now to continue to put those things forward. And the reason that rape culture plays into this is because there's so many things that make it seem like this is okay. Like taking is part of it. Like you have to understand, and it is completely inappropriate in any form, in any way. And so it's just important that we, like what happened last week. It was somebody in I forget, I'm gonna have to look it up, but there was somebody that was in Congress saying something else about women. Oh, it was that we shouldn't do the COVID relief fund because then what it will encourage, then women will have to go back to work. If women go back to work, then they can't take care of their families. That was what their reasoning was. And I was like,
$1,400 is going to do it.
Yeah, that's right. I put it on my Twitter and it said, Happy International Women's Day? Question mark. Because it was like on the same day. And I was so confused that this still exists. And it's that transference of power. Again, the rape is not about the sex. It's about that transference of power in different ways. And so I think a lot of these people can rape people mentally and physically as we're going through this process of trying to take your power away.
Right. And I think when I think about rape culture, it isn't necessarily a physical
That's right.
act of violence. It is the continual misogynistic comments like you just mentioned. It's the continual just stupidity from people around, and we can go to women's rights and, rights for their body. And I think the piece that always gets to me is really the idea of, sorry,
Are you gonna
Olive
try to
says,
act like a cat? But
yeah,
right in the
yeah.
camera?
All right, Olive, that's enough of that. Sorry, Olive's joining us. I lost what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I just think it's part of that same culture, and I know it'll come back. I mean, part of the reason that it's important to talk about rape culture right now is because it came up this past week with Pepe Le Pew being canceled, and people like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? And I was like, wait, so like, y'all didn't see that? Like, people aren't seeing that Pepe Le Pew was trying to force a cat, like Olive.
Yeah.
Thanks, Olive, for the same time.
Yeah.
Was trying to force himself on this
her.
other, and it's like, I know it's a cartoon. I know it's a scum.
Right.
I really.
I apologize.
I feel fully
very excited to be here. Just really happy. I'm sorry. For those of you who are only listening and not watching, Olive has just shown her privates to Jackie, and I'm sorry for that. It's not appropriate, and I apologize.
I feel so violated.
I do too. So I didn't know the Pepe Le Pew thing, but no doubt, like for reals. But I also we need to do an episode on cancel culture because
what's that gonna do? What is that gonna do? What's that gonna do? What's it gonna do?
Okay, let's close this one out, my friends.
Back it up.
Rape culture, not okay. We need to break it down, and we need and again, it's the awareness. And so many times when we're having these conversations, it is just hey, go read that book, go look at that show, go listen to that song, whatever it might be, and just listen to the words or hear what they're saying. Like Mad Men is another great example of
that's right.
What in the world? Like, this is not okay. And yes, you can be like, oh, well, that was in the 50s. Well, it's still happening today, every day at work for folks. And
for women, you don't have to put up with it. And if you see something, say something.
Exactly. And I also would say, for women of color, can I just apologize on behalf of my entire female population of white women that are so unsupportive in so many ways, and we need to do better.
Yes, but I'm not accepting your apology today.
Okay. And you don't have to. That's
the conversation.
Well, that's thank you for saying that, because that's part of it too, is that this whole I'm so sorry. Well, again, just do better. Stop it.
That's right. Stop it.
Do better and stop it. That is all. All right. Lesson.
The lesson of the day. Do you have a lesson? Go first, Kate.
I am going to say mine is speak up, even if it's scary. Find the ally, find the person in the room that can help you. And I know sometimes that person doesn't exist, but if the hair on the back of your neck is, rising up, there's a reason for it. If the comment that is being said makes you feel some kind of way, say something. And, maybe it's not in the moment, but also if you are the person that is overhearing that, if you are the person that is witnessing it, even if it's not aimed at you, stop it and shut it down. Because I think that's how we fix this. Because I don't need to put the onus on the person that's in that underrepresented group, that person that's in that marginalized group every time.
Yep.
We all need to do better, and we all need to help each other out in this work. So shut it down, Bobby Brown.
I like it. And for me, I would say to people listening that you are worth it. You are worth more. Congratulations on making it this far in life. You have lived through every bad situation you've been in. You will rise up. So take some of the time to take care of yourself. If you are in a situation that you feel like you are not being treated properly and there aren't any repercussions, that people aren't focusing on repercussions, and you're constantly being led down a form of abuse, get out. Don't stay, and you don't have to stay. You don't have to try to fight it. You could just look for other opportunities, and don't be so afraid that you won't find another job, that it freezes you into taking harassment or abuse in your current job. I promise you'll find another job. I promise you will. And there's lots of people that are there to help you. And I know if you are not in a situation, if you find yourself in a situation and you don't know what you're going to do, reach out and tell some people and try to connect with people that can try to help you find another opportunity. Because I feel like the longer it goes on, the harder it gets to leave. It's like an abusive relationship. The longer you stay, the harder it is to leave. So take care of yourself first.
And lastly, I'll say Jackie and a lot of recruiters. So reach out to us even.
Yeah.
We'd be more than happy to help.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that was a heavy one. Okay.
Oof.
So thank you for joining us for the Inclusive AF podcast. This is Katie Van Horn.
And I'm Jackie Clayton. Bye.
And we will see you the next time. Bye.